This is not a story meant to scare you. It's a confession that was never meant to be heard. What you're about to listen to is real, or at least, it was real to the person who lived it. Welcome to True Horror Confessions. If you're brave enough to keep listening, subscribe now. Because once these stories begin, they don't let you go. I volunteered for a sleep study 6 weeks ago. I needed the money, $3,000 for 5 nights of sleeping in a lab while they monitored my brain activity. It seemed easy. Safe. How dangerous could sleeping be? I'm writing this because I haven't slept in 42 days. Not because I don't want to, because I physically can't. And if I don't find a way to sleep soon, I'm going to die. But if I do sleep, something worse than death is waiting for me. The study was being conducted by Dr. Sarah Chen at the Northwestern Sleep Research Center. She was researching lucid dreaming and the possibility of shared dream experiences. The idea was that multiple test subjects, sleeping simultaneously in the same room while wired to the same monitoring equipment, might be able to interact within a controlled dream environment. It sounded like science fiction, but Dr. Chen assured us she'd had promising preliminary results. There were 5 of us in the study. Me, a woman named Jessica, a guy named Tom, another woman named Kira, and a young guy who went by Dex. We all met in the initial briefing, signed our consent forms, and were told we'd start the following Monday. The sleep lab was in the basement of the research building. 5 beds arranged in a circle, all of them facing inward toward a central monitoring station. Each bed had electrodes and sensors attached EEG to monitor brain activity, EKG for heart rate, respiration monitors, eye movement trackers. We'd be wired up like computers, Dr. Chen explained, so she could track our sleep cycles and ensure we were all entering REM sleep simultaneously. The first night was normal. We all got into our assigned beds around 10 p.m., got hooked up to the machines, and Dr. Chen dimmed the lights. It took me a while to fall asleep. It's hard to relax when you're covered in electrodes, and you know someone is watching your brain waves. But eventually, I drifted off. I dreamed. Nothing unusual at first. Random fragments, the typical nonsense of regular dreams. But then, something shifted. The dream became clearer, more stable. I was standing in a large room that looked similar to the sleep lab, but wrong somehow. The proportions were off. The walls were too tall, the beds too far apart, and the others were there. Jessica, Tom, Kira, and Dex, all standing in the dream version of the lab, looking confused. "Where are we?" Jessica asked. "I think we're dreaming," Tom said. Like, actually in the dream Dr. Chen was talking about, the shared one. We experimented, testing the boundaries of this dream space. We could move around, touch things, talk to each other. Everything felt real, solid. We spent what felt like hours in there, exploring this dream version of the lab, before eventually the dream faded and we woke up. The next morning, Dr. Chen was ecstatic. We all reported having the same dream, with the same details. She said we'd achieved something unprecedented, genuine shared consciousness during REM sleep. The second night, she said, we'd go deeper. Night 2 started the same way. We went to sleep, entered REM, and found ourselves back in that strange dream lab. But this time, we noticed something different. There was a door in the dream lab that hadn't been there before. A heavy metal door set into one of the walls. "Should we open it?" Kira asked. "Maybe it leads to other dream spaces," Dex suggested. "Like, maybe we can explore beyond just this room." We opened the door, and everything went wrong. Behind the door was darkness. Not the darkness of a room without light, this was something else. A darkness that felt active, alive, and it was moving, pouring through the doorway like liquid smoke, spreading across the floor of the dream lab. "Close it," Tom shouted. "Close the door," but we couldn't. The door wouldn't move, and the darkness kept coming, faster now, rising up the walls, spreading across the ceiling. We tried to run, but in dreams, running doesn't work the same way. Our movements were sluggish, like moving through water. The darkness touched Dex first. He screamed, a sound that was horrible even in a dream, and then he was gone. Not just disappeared, it was like he'd been erased, leaving nothing behind. The darkness consumed him completely. The rest of us were screaming now, trying to wake up, trying to force ourselves out of the dream. Jessica grabbed my arm. "Wake up! We have to wake up!" I woke up gasping, covered in sweat, my heart racing. Around me, the others were waking up too, all of them panicking, all except Dex. Dex wasn't waking up. Dr. Chen rushed to his bed, checking his vitals. He was alive, breathing, heart beating, but he wasn't waking up. His eyes were moving rapidly under his eyelids, REM sleep, but no matter what Dr. Chen did, he wouldn't wake. "He's stuck," Jessica whispered. "He's still in there. In that place." Dr. Chen tried everything. Loud noises, physical stimulation, even smelling salts. Nothing worked. After an hour, she called an ambulance. They took Dex to the hospital, where he remained in what doctors described as a persistent REM state. Coma didn't quite fit because his brain was highly active. He was dreaming, continuously, endlessly. Dr. Chen wanted to cancel the study, but Tom insisted we continue. He thought maybe we could go back into the dream and somehow help Dex, pull him out. I thought it was insane, but I also felt guilty. We'd opened that door. Maybe we could close it. Night 3, 4 of us went to sleep. Jessica, Tom, Kira, and me. Dr. Chen was hesitant, but we convinced her. She agreed to monitor us closely and wake us immediately if anything seemed wrong. We fell asleep, and we found ourselves back in the dream lab. The door was still open. The darkness had receded somewhat, pulling back beyond the doorway, but we could see it moving in there, waiting. "Dex!" Tom called out. "Dex, are you in there?" A voice answered from the darkness. It sounded like Dex, but wrong, distorted. "Help me, please. I can't find the way out." "We're coming," Tom said, starting toward the door. I grabbed his arm. "Don't. That's not Dex. Listen to the voice. It's not right. Please," the voice said again. "It hurts. It's so cold in here. Please help me." Kira was crying. "We have to do something. We can't just leave him." That's when we saw them. Things emerging from the darkness beyond the door. They looked human at first glance, but as they came closer, we could see they were wrong. Their limbs were too long, bent at joints that shouldn't exist. Their faces were smooth and featureless, except for mouths, huge mouths filled with too many teeth. "Wake up!" I screamed. "Everyone wake up now!" I forced myself awake, sitting up in the real lab, ripping the electrodes off my head. Jessica woke up beside me, gasping, then Kira. But Tom wasn't waking up. Just like Dex, he was trapped in REM, his eyes moving frantically behind his eyelids. Dr. Chen was pale, her hands shaking. "What's happening? What did you see in there?" We told her everything. The door, the darkness, the things that came out of it. She listened with growing horror. "We have to destroy the equipment," she said finally. "This experiment, I don't know what we've created, but it has to stop." But it was too late for that. Because that night, sleeping in my own bed, in my own apartment, miles away from the lab, I had the dream again. I was back in the dream lab, alone this time. The door was still open, and the darkness beyond it had spread further. It had consumed most of the room now, and in that darkness, I could see shapes moving. Not just the creatures we'd seen before. People. Dozens of people, all trapped, all reaching out toward me. I recognized some of them. Tom was in there, and Dex. But there were others too. People I'd never seen before. Men, women, children, all of them screaming silently, their mouths open, but no sound coming out. And then I saw her, Dr. Chen, standing at the edge of the darkness, staring at me. "Help us," she mouthed. I woke up screaming. It was 3 a.m. I grabbed my phone and called Dr. Chen. No answer. I called the sleep lab. No answer. I called the hospital to check on Tom and Dex. Tom had died an hour ago. Heart failure, they said, even though he was only 32 and perfectly healthy. But his brain activity had been off the charts right before he died, like his mind was experiencing something so traumatic his heart just gave out. Dex was still alive, still dreaming, but his condition was deteriorating. I tried calling Jessica and Kira. Neither answered. I drove to Jessica's apartment. Her roommate said she hadn't come home the night before. I went to Kira's place. Same story. They were gone, and I knew where they were. Trapped in that dream place, in that darkness, with Tom and all those other people. I tried to stay awake after that. Coffee, energy drinks, anything to keep myself from sleeping. But the human body can only go so long without sleep. After 72 hours, I started hallucinating. I'd see the door from the dream appearing in my apartment walls. I'd hear voices calling to me from inside my closet, my bathroom, anywhere dark. On day 5 without sleep, I collapsed. I couldn't help it. My body shut down, and I fell asleep right there on my kitchen floor. I woke up in the dream lab, but it was almost completely consumed by the darkness now. Just a small circle of light remained, and I was standing in the center of it. The darkness pressed in from all sides, and I could see faces in it. Hundreds of faces. Tom, Dex, Jessica, Kira, Dr. Chen. All of them staring at me with black eyes. And the things were there too. Those creatures with the 2 long limbs and the terrible mouths. They were circling the light, waiting for it to shrink just a little more, waiting to reach me. One of them spoke. Its voice was like grinding metal. "You opened the door. You let us in. Now you belong to us. What are you?" I asked. "We are what lives in the space between waking and sleeping. We've always been there, waiting. Most dreamers never see us, never open the door. But Dr. Chen found the way to connect dreams, to make them real and solid. And in doing so, she built a bridge from your world to ours. I didn't mean to. Intention doesn't matter. The door is open now, and every night, when you sleep, you come back here. Every night, this circle of light gets smaller. Eventually, it will disappear entirely. And when it does, you'll be ours forever, just like the others." The creature leaned closer, and I could smell its breath, rot and decay. "We're patient. We can wait. You'll have to sleep again eventually. Humans always do." I woke up on my kitchen floor, the sun streaming through the windows. I'd been asleep for 12 hours. I checked my phone. 4 missed calls from Dex's family. He died during the night. Heart failure. Just like Tom. I haven't slept since. That was 37 days ago. I'm dying. I know I'm dying. The human body can't survive this long without sleep. I'm hallucinating constantly now. I see the door everywhere. Every doorway, every opening, every dark space, they're all the door. And I can see through them, can see the darkness and the things moving in it. They're waiting for me, getting closer every day. Because even though I'm not sleeping, I'm not fully awake anymore either. I'm stuck in between, and that's where they live. Last night, I looked in the mirror and saw one of them standing behind me. When I turned around, nothing was there. But I felt its breath on my neck, felt its fingers brush against my spine. The doctors say I need to sleep. They've offered me sleeping pills, sedatives, anything to force my body into rest. But I can't, because I know what's waiting for me there. The circle of light in the dream lab is almost gone now. I can see it even when I'm awake, like it's superimposed over my vision. Just a tiny pinprick of light, surrounded by endless darkness. And standing at the edge of that darkness, reaching toward me, are all the people who came before me. Tom, Dex, Jessica, Kira, Dr. Chen, hundreds of others, all of them beckoning me to join them. I thought maybe I could warn others. That's why I started writing this. But as I type, I realize it's too late for warnings. The door isn't just in the dream lab anymore. It's everywhere. Every dream, every nightmare. Dr. Chen's experiment didn't just create a shared dream space. It weakened the barrier between dreaming and waking. And now those things are coming through. Last night, my neighbor was found dead in his bed, apparent heart failure. But I heard him screaming in his sleep hours before they found him. I heard what he was screaming. "Don't let them in. Close the door. Please, close the door." It's spreading. The darkness from the dream world is bleeding into our reality. claiming people one by one. And every person it takes makes it stronger, makes the barrier thinner. I'm so tired. I can barely keep my eyes open anymore. My body is shutting down piece by piece. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely type. I'm seeing double. My heart keeps skipping beats. The doctors say if I don't sleep in the next day or two, I'll die anyway. My organs will start failing. My brain will basically burn itself out. So I have two choices: sleep and be taken by the things in the darkness, or stay awake and die slowly. But maybe there's a third option. Maybe if I die while I'm still awake, I won't end up in that place. Maybe I'll actually die, truly die, instead of becoming one of those trapped faces in the darkness. I've been thinking about it a lot, about how to do it, how to make sure I'm truly gone before sleep can claim me. But even as I write this, I can feel myself slipping. My eyes are closing. I'm trying to force them open, but I can't. The exhaustion is too much. My body is betraying me, pulling me down into sleep against my will. I can see it now. The dream lab. The circle of light is gone. There's only darkness, and they're all reaching for me. Tom and Dex and Jessica and Kira and Dr. Chen and hundreds of others. All of them with those black eyes and those screaming mouths. And behind them, I can see something bigger. Something vast and ancient and hungry. The thing that the door was keeping locked away. The thing Dr. Chen accidentally released. It's looking at me. It's been looking at me this whole time, and it's smiling. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to everyone reading this. Because if you've read this far, if you've pictured that dream lab in your mind, if you've imagined that darkness and those creatures, then you've opened the door too. Just a little, just enough. Tonight, when you sleep, you might find yourself there, in that room, in that darkness, and you'll see all of us, everyone who came before, reaching out to pull you in. Close your eyes and try not to dream, but you will dream. You always do. See you soon. I'm a park ranger at Blackwood National Forest in northern Washington. I've worked here for 6 years, and in that time I've dealt with lost hikers, minor injuries, the occasional bear encounter, normal park ranger stuff. But 3 months ago, something happened that made me question everything I thought I knew about this forest, about nature itself. I'm writing this from a motel room 200 miles away from Blackwood. I quit my job yesterday, walked into my supervisor's office, threw my badge and radio on his desk, and told him I was done. He tried to convince me to stay, told me I was one of their best rangers. I didn't tell him the real reason I was leaving. He wouldn't have believed me anyway, but I need to tell someone, because I think something terrible is happening in Blackwood Forest, and I'm the only one who knows about it. It started with the missing persons reports. Over the past year, 7 hikers have disappeared in Blackwood. 7 people who went into the forest and never came out. We did extensive searches each time, search and rescue teams, dogs, helicopters. We found nothing, not a trace. No bodies, no belongings, no signs of struggle, just gone. Park Service tried to keep it quiet, didn't want to scare away tourists. They blamed it on people going off trail, getting lost in the wilderness, maybe falling into ravines or being taken by animals. Plausible explanations. I believed them at first, but then I found the photographs. I was doing a routine patrol on the Northwest Trail, about 8 miles into the forest, when I noticed something off the path. A backpack, partially hidden under some brush. It looked new, clean, not like something that had been out there for months. I opened it up and found the usual hiking supplies, water bottle, first aid kit, granola bars, and a camera, a nice digital camera with a full memory card. I should have turned it in to Lost and Found, standard procedure, but something made me look through the photos first. Most of them were normal hiking photos. Beautiful shots of the forest, the mountains, a young couple smiling at the camera. The last few photos were dated from about 3 weeks ago, during the time we'd been searching for our most recent missing person, a woman named Rachel Summers. The photos started normal, but then they got strange. One photo showed the forest getting darker, even though the timestamp said it was midday. The trees looked wrong somehow, like the shadows between them were too deep, too dark. The next photo showed Rachel looking scared, glancing over her shoulder at something off camera. Then a photo that was mostly just darkness with a blur of motion. Then one more, the last photo on the camera. It showed Rachel's face, taken from very close up, her eyes wide with terror. But here's the thing that made my blood run cold. The photo was taken from a high angle, like the camera was above her, looking down, and in the reflection in her eyes, you could see something tall and dark standing over her. I zoomed in on the reflection. The shape was humanoid, but wrong. Too tall, too thin, with limbs that bent at angles that shouldn't be possible. And where its head should be was just darkness, not a shadow, an absence, like something had been erased from reality. I reported the backpack. We organized another search in that area. Found nothing. No sign of Rachel, no evidence of what had happened. The camera was sent to a digital forensics team. They confirmed the photos were authentic, unedited. Their report concluded that Rachel had probably been attacked by a person or animal and dropped the camera during the struggle. But I knew better. I'd seen that reflection. I'd seen what was standing over her. And I was starting to realize that I'd seen it before. You know that feeling you get sometimes in the forest? That sensation that you're being watched? I'd felt it 100 times during my patrols. Always dismissed it as just the natural wariness humans have in wild spaces. But now, I was paying attention, and I was starting to notice things. The forest was too quiet sometimes. Not the peaceful quiet of nature, but an oppressive silence. No bird calls, no insects, no wind, just absolute stillness. And during those moments of silence, if I looked carefully into the deeper parts of the forest, I could see shapes, tall, dark shapes standing between the trees, perfectly motionless. At first I thought they were just trees, my eyes playing tricks on me in the shadows. But trees don't move when you're not looking directly at them. These things did. I'd see one in my peripheral vision, standing about 50 yards away. I'd turn to look at it directly, and it would be gone. But when I looked away, I'd catch movement in my peripheral vision again. Closer this time. Always closer. I started carrying a camera on my patrols. If I could photograph one of these things, I'd have proof. But every time I tried to take a picture, the photos came out wrong. Just darkness where the shape should be, like they absorbed light. Then the whispers started. I was on a night patrol. We do them occasionally to check on the campsites when I first heard them. I was walking along the main trail with my flashlight, about 2 miles from the ranger station, when I heard voices in the forest, quiet voices, just at the edge of hearing, all whispering the same thing over and over. I couldn't make out the words at first, but as I stood there listening, they got clearer, and I realized they were saying my name, Ryan, Ryan, Ryan. Not just one voice, multiple voices, coming from all around me, all whispering in perfect synchronization. Men's voices, women's voices, children's voices, all saying my name. I ran. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I ran back to the ranger station, like hell was chasing me, and I didn't stop until I was inside with the door locked and all the lights on. I should have quit that night, but I kept thinking about the missing hikers, about Rachel and the others. Someone needed to figure out what was happening to them, and I was starting to have a terrible suspicion about where they'd gone. I spent the next few weeks researching Blackwood Forest. I dug through old records, newspaper archives, historical documents. What I found disturbed me. The forest has always had a reputation. The local Native American tribes avoided it, called it the place where the trees think in their language. Early settlers reported strange occurrences, people hearing voices, seeing figures in the shadows, experiencing lost time. In 1932, an entire logging crew disappeared. All 12 men, gone in a single night. Their equipment was found at the logging site, but the men were never seen again. Over the decades, dozens of people had vanished in Blackwood. Most were written off as accidents, people getting lost or killed by wildlife. But the pattern was there. People went into the forest and didn't come out. And the reports from survivors, the few who made it out after experiencing something strange, were all eerily similar. They all talked about feeling watched, about seeing tall figures in the shadows, about hearing whispers, and they all mentioned the same thing, the feeling that the forest itself was alive and aware. I decided to go deeper into the forest than I'd ever gone before. There was a section in the northwest corner of Blackwood that we rarely patrolled. The terrain was rough, hard to navigate, and there were no trails. But according to the GPS coordinates from the recovered belongings of missing hikers, that's where most of them had disappeared. I went during the day, well equipped, with a GPS tracker that would send my location to the ranger station every 30 minutes. I told my supervisor I was doing a long-range patrol. He approved it, had no reason not to. The hike took 3 hours. The forest got denser as I went deeper, the trees older and more massive. Some of them had to be 500-600 years old, ancient, and the light filtering through the canopy got dimmer, even though it was only noon. That's when I found the clearing. It was a perfect circle, about 100 feet in diameter, in the middle of the densest part of the forest. No trees grew inside the circle, just bare ground, dead and dark, like nothing had grown there in centuries. And in the center of the clearing was a hole, not a cave or a ravine, a hole, a perfect circle cut into the earth, about 20 feet across, going straight down into darkness. The edges were too clean, too precise to be natural, and the darkness inside the hole was wrong. It didn't just look dark, it was dark, like an absence of light, so complete that shining my flashlight into it did nothing. The beam just stopped at the edge, swallowed by whatever was down there. I got closer, even though every instinct was screaming at me to run. I stood at the edge and looked down. The hole seemed to go down forever, and as I stared into it, I started to hear the whispers again. "Ryan, Ryan, come down, Ryan. Join us, Ryan." I recognized some of the voices. Rachel's voice was in there, and others' voices I'd heard in interviews with families of missing hikers, voices from videos and recordings I'd reviewed. They were down there, all of them, the missing hikers, the logging crew from 1932, maybe even people from centuries before, all of them down in that hole, whispering. And then I saw movement in the darkness. Something was climbing up, multiple somethings, those tall, thin shapes emerging from the hole, pulling themselves up with those two long limbs. I ran, again, but this time they followed me. I could hear them behind me, moving through the forest faster than anything that size should be able to move. They didn't make footstep sounds, more like a rushing, sliding sound, like they were gliding over the ground. I didn't look back. I just ran as fast as I could, branches whipping my face, roots trying to trip me. My GPS was beeping frantically. I was off course, heading in the wrong direction, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away from that hole and the things coming out of it. I ran for what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes. And then, suddenly, I burst out of the tree line onto a road, a paved road with cars driving on it. Civilization. I'd somehow managed to run all the way to the eastern boundary of the park. I looked back at the forest, at the tree line, and I saw them, dozens of those tall, dark figures, standing just inside the forest, perfectly still, watching me. They didn't cross onto the road. It was like there was an invisible barrier they couldn't pass. I got a ride back to the ranger station from a passing driver. I told my supervisor I'd gotten disoriented and lost. He was concerned, wanted me to take a few days off. I agreed. But that night, I couldn't stop thinking about that hole, about the voices of all those missing people, about what those things were and what they wanted. I did more research. I found old geological surveys of the area. According to the maps, that clearing shouldn't exist. Every survey showed that section of forest as being densely wooded. No clearings, but I'd been there. I'd seen the hole. Then I found something in an old journal from 1898, written by one of the first rangers to patrol Blackwood. He described finding a void in the earth, a wound in the world, in the northwest section of the forest. He wrote that the local tribes believed the hole was ancient, that it had been there long before humans arrived in the region. They believed it was a place where the boundary between our world and something else was thin, a place where things from the other side could come through. The ranger who wrote that journal disappeared a week after making that entry. His body was never found. I went back to the clearing yesterday. I had to. I needed to see it one more time. I needed to confirm it was real, and not some hallucination brought on by stress or fear. It was real. The hole was still there, but something had changed. The clearing was bigger now, the circle of dead ground wider, and there were things around the hole. Piles of belongings, backpacks, clothes, shoes, cameras, phones, belongings from all the missing hikers, carefully arranged in neat piles. And standing around the hole, forming a circle, were the figures, dozens of them. They weren't moving, weren't making any sound, just standing there, waiting. I took out my camera. I needed evidence. I needed something to show people, to prove what was happening here. I started taking photos. That's when they all turned to look at me. All at once, in perfect synchronization. And I realized they didn't have faces. Where their faces should have been was just that same absence, that void, like looking into the hole itself. One of them moved, glided across the clearing toward me with impossible speed. I turned and ran, but I felt something grab the back of my jacket. Long, cold fingers wrapped around my collar. I twisted, managed to slip out of my jacket, and kept running. I didn't stop until I was back in my truck, doors locked, engine running. I drove straight home, packed my things, went to the ranger station and quit. And now I'm here, 200 miles away, trying to figure out what to do, because I still have my camera. And when I looked at the photos I took, I saw something that made me realize how much worse this is than I thought. In the background of one of the photos, behind the circle of figures, you can see into the hole. And in that darkness, you can see faces. Hundreds of faces, maybe thousands, all pressed against what looks like a membrane or barrier, like they're trying to push through. Human faces, but wrong, stretched and distorted, and hungry-looking. And here's the worst part. I recognize some of them. Not just the missing hikers. I recognize people I've known, people who died years ago. My uncle who died in a car accident when I was 12. My high school friend who overdosed. My grandfather who passed away from cancer. Their faces are in that hole, in the darkness, and they're trying to get out. The hole isn't just taking people. It's collecting them, trapping them. And whatever those tall figures are, they're the guardians, or maybe the hunters. They pull people into the hole and keep them there, forever. I don't know how far the hole's influence extends. The forest is huge, over 200,000 acres. That clearing is just one entrance. There might be others. There might be holes like it in forests all over the world, places where the boundary is thin, where things can cross over. I'm writing this because I need someone to know. The Park Service is doing nothing. They're still sending rangers on patrols, still letting hikers into Blackwood, still acting like this is just a series of unfortunate accidents. But people need to stay away from that forest, from the northwest section especially. Don't go looking for that clearing. Don't go near the hole if you find it. And if you're hiking and you start to feel like you're being watched, if you hear whispers, if you see tall figures in the shadows, get out. Run. Don't stop until you're back in civilization. Because once those things decide they want you, I don't think there's any escape. They'll follow you through the forest, herding you, driving you deeper and deeper until you reach the hole. And then you'll fall. Or they'll push you, and you'll join all the others down there in the darkness, pressing against that barrier, trying to get back out. I've been having nightmares every night since I left. In the dreams, I'm back at the clearing. I'm standing at the edge of the hole, and I can hear voices calling to me. Not just the missing hikers now. My own voice is in there too. Multiple versions of my voice, all calling to me from the darkness. Ryan, come down. You belong down here with us. You've already fallen, Ryan. You just don't remember yet. I wake up in a panic, checking my surroundings, making sure I'm still in the motel room. But the dreams are getting more vivid, more real, and I'm starting to lose track of which memories are real and which are dreams. Did I really escape from the forest? Or am I still there, standing at the edge of the hole, about to fall? Is this motel room real? Or is this just what my mind has created to cope with being trapped in that darkness? I don't know anymore. I can't trust my own memories. Last night, I woke up and found dirt under my fingernails. Dark, dead dirt, like the dirt in the clearing. And my shoes, the shoes I was wearing when I quit, when I drove away from Blackwood, had mud on them. Fresh mud. I haven't left this motel room in 3 days. There's no way I could have gotten mud on my shoes. But there it was. Forest mud. Blackwood mud. I think part of me is still there. Part of me never left that clearing, and that part is trying to pull the rest of me back. I can hear the whispers even now, even here, even hundreds of miles away from Blackwood. They're faint, but they're there, calling me, telling me to come back, telling me that I belong in the hole. And the worst part is, some part of me wants to go back, wants to walk back into that forest, back to that clearing, and look down into the hole one more time. Because there's something down there, something ancient and vast and patient, and it knows my name. It's always known my name. I'm going to try to sleep now. Maybe when I wake up, this will all have been a nightmare. Maybe I'll wake up in my bed in my house near the park, and this will all have been some stress-induced hallucination. But I don't think so. Because when I close my eyes, I can see it. The clearing, the hole, the figures standing around it. And they're all looking at me, waiting for me. I think they know I'm going to come back. I think they've always known. After all, no one who finds the hole really leaves. We just think we do. I'm a nurse at St. Catherine's Hospital in rural Pennsylvania. I've worked the night shift in the ICU for 4 years. I've seen people die. I've watched families say goodbye. I've held the hands of patients taking their last breaths. Death doesn't scare me anymore. Or it didn't, until I met the patient in room 237. I'm writing this from my car in the hospital parking lot. It's 4 a.m., and my shift ended 2 hours ago, but I can't bring myself to leave. Because if I leave, if I go home and try to sleep, I'm terrified that I'll wake up in that room, in room 237. With him, this started 3 weeks ago. A man was brought into the ICU after a severe car accident. No ID, no wallet, no phone. John Doe, we called him. Mid-40s, massive head trauma, multiple broken bones, internal bleeding. He should have died in the ambulance, should have died on the operating table, but somehow he survived. They put him in room 237, hooked him up to every machine we had, induced a coma to let his brain heal. Standard procedure for trauma patients. I was assigned to his care on my first shift after his admission. The first thing I noticed was how cold the room was. Not just cool freezing. I could see my breath. I reported it to maintenance, thinking the AC was broken. They came up, checked everything, said the temperature was normal, in 68 degrees, according to their thermometer, but I was shivering in my scrubs. The second thing I noticed was the way the machines sounded. Medical equipment has rhythms. You get used to the beep of heart monitors, the whoosh of ventilators, the various alarms and alerts, but the sounds coming from John Doe's machines were wrong. Slightly off tempo, slightly off pitch. It was subtle, but once I noticed it, I couldn't stop hearing it. And the third thing I noticed was that John Doe's eyes were open. He was in a medically induced coma. His eyes should have been closed. But they were open, staring straight up at the ceiling, unblinking. I checked his chart, yes, definitely in a coma, deep sedation. I tried closing his eyelids manually. They wouldn't stay closed. As soon as I took my fingers away, they'd slide back open. I reported all of this to Dr. Martinez, the attending physician. He examined John Doe, checked the sedation levels, adjusted some medications. He said sometimes coma patients do keep their eyes open. It's unusual but not unheard of. As for the room temperature, he couldn't explain it but suggested I bring a sweater. That night, during my rounds at 2 a.m., I went to check on John Doe. His vitals were stable, machines functioning normally. But when I walked into the room, I felt it immediately, that sensation of being watched. I looked at John Doe. His eyes were still open, still staring at the ceiling. Except this time, as I approached the bed, his eyes moved. They tracked me as I crossed the room, following my movement, watching me. I froze. Coma patients don't do that. Their eyes might drift, might have random movements, but they don't track, they don't follow. "Can you hear me?" I asked, my voice shaking. His mouth didn't move. He didn't respond, but his eyes stayed locked on me. And then, slowly, deliberately, he blinked. I ran out of the room and got Dr. Martinez immediately. But by the time we got back, John Doe's eyes were staring at the ceiling again, unfocused, not tracking anything. Dr. Martinez examined him thoroughly. No change in his condition. Still deeply unconscious. Still in a coma. "You're tired," Dr. Martinez said kindly. "Night shift plays tricks on your mind sometimes. Why don't you take your break?" I wanted to argue, but what could I say? That a coma patient had looked at me? That his eyes had followed me across the room? It sounded crazy even to me, but I knew what I'd seen. Over the next few days, John Doe's condition didn't improve, didn't worsen either. He just stayed exactly the same vitals, stable, brain activity minimal, body unresponsive, except for the eyes, always open, always watching. And the room kept getting colder. Other nurses started commenting on it. We all brought extra layers when we had to go into room 237. Maintenance came back 3 more times, insisted everything was functioning properly, couldn't explain the temperature. Then the other patients started complaining. The ICU has 12 rooms arranged in a circle around the nurses' station. Room 237 is at the far end. And the patients in the rooms near 237 patients who were sedated, who shouldn't have been aware of anything, started having problems. They'd wake up screaming about a man standing in their doorway. A man with open eyes. A man who was watching them. We'd check the hallways, check the security footage. No one there. No one had entered their rooms. One patient, Mrs. Chen, in room 235, became so distressed that we had to increase her sedation. She kept saying, "He's coming, he's coming, he's going to take us all." We thought it was ICU psychosis, a common condition where patients become confused and paranoid from the stress and medication. But then Mrs. Chen died. Sudden cardiac arrest at 3 a.m. We tried to resuscitate her but couldn't. And when we were cleaning her body to send to the morgue, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Her eyes were open, staring, and they wouldn't close, no matter what we did, just like John Doe's eyes. 2 nights later, another patient near room 237 died. Mr. Patel in room 236. Same thing. Sudden cardiac arrest, unsuccessful resuscitation, eyes that wouldn't close. The hospital administration started an investigation. They thought maybe there was something wrong with the equipment in that section of the ICU, some malfunction causing cardiac events, but all the equipment checked out fine. I started researching John Doe. The police had been trying to identify him, but they'd had no luck. No fingerprints in the system, no dental records match, no missing persons reports that fit his description. It was like he'd never existed before the accident. But I found something in the accident report that bothered me. The car he'd been driving was old, a 1987 sedan that had been reported stolen 3 weeks before the accident. The interesting part was who reported it stolen: the estate of Margaret Holloway, who died 2 months prior. The car had belonged to a dead woman, and the man driving it had no identity. I dug deeper, found Margaret Holloway's obituary. She died at age 73 in St. Catherine's Hospital. In the ICU, in room 237, I felt sick. I went through hospital records, searching for other deaths in room 237. Over the past 10 years, there had been 43, an unusually high number compared to other ICU rooms. Patients who should have recovered died unexpectedly. Patients with minor issues suddenly crashed, and in every case, every single case, the death occurred between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. I took this information to Dr. Martinez. He listened to everything, looked at the data I'd compiled, and I could see the concern growing in his eyes. "I'll bring this to administration," he said. "We may need to take room 237 offline, do a thorough inspection." But before he could do anything, another patient died. This time it was Mr. Rodriguez in room 234. And this time, I was there when it happened. I was at the nurse's station at 2:47 a.m. when Mr. Rodriguez's monitor started alarming. I ran to his room. He was seizing, his body convulsing violently. I called for help, started emergency protocols. But as I was trying to stabilize him, I saw something in the doorway. John Doe. Standing there. Watching. But that was impossible. John Doe was in a coma. He was intubated, hooked up to machines. He couldn't just get up and walk. I blinked, and he was gone. But Mr. Rodriguez had stopped seizing. His heart monitor showed a flat line. He was dead, and his eyes were open, staring, wouldn't close. I ran to room 237. John Doe was there, in his bed, exactly as he should be. Machines still beeping, ventilators still breathing for him, IV lines still in place. He hadn't moved. He couldn't have moved, but his eyes were looking at me. And this time, he smiled. I screamed. I actually screamed, right there in the ICU. Other nurses came running. They saw John Doe too, saw his smile, saw his eyes tracking us. Dr. Martinez was called. He examined John Doe again. Impossible, he muttered. He's still in a deep coma. His brain activity is minimal. He shouldn't be capable of facial expressions or eye movement. But we all saw it. John Doe, lying in bed, completely paralyzed according to every test, smiling at us. That's when I noticed something. In the reflection on the window behind John Doe's bed, there were more of them. More patients with open, staring eyes, standing in the room with us. I recognized Mrs. Chen, Mr. Patel, Mr. Rodriguez, all of them just standing there, perfectly still, watching us with those dead, open eyes. I pointed at the window. Do you see them? Dr. Martinez looked. His face went white. Oh my God, the other nurses saw them too. 7 of us, standing in room 237, staring at the reflection in the window showing a room full of dead patients. Dr. Martinez turned around to look at the room directly. Nothing there, just the empty room. But in the reflection, they were still there, and more were appearing. Dozens of them now. All the patients who died in room 237 over the years, all standing in a crowd, all staring at us, and at the center of the crowd was John Doe, not in the bed, standing upright, eyes open, smiling. We need to disconnect him, Dr. Martinez said suddenly. We need to disconnect all the machines and let him die. We can't do that, another nurse protested. That's murder. Look at him. Dr. Martinez pointed at the bed. Look at what he's doing. John Doe was still lying in bed, still on the ventilator, but his smile was wider now, too wide. His mouth was stretching open, far wider than human jaws should allow. And inside that too wide mouth, we could see something. Movement, like there were things crawling in his throat. He's not human, Dr. Martinez whispered. I don't know what he is, but he's not human, and he's killing patients. He's collecting them. In the window reflection, the crowd of dead patients was moving closer to us, pressing forward, and John Doe, in the reflection, was walking toward us too, that impossible smile still stretching his face. Dr. Martinez reached for the ventilator, his hand shaking. I'm ending this. The moment he touched the machine, every alarm in the ICU went off simultaneously, not just in room 237, every room. Every patient monitor, every ventilator, every IV pump, all of them screaming warnings, and then the lights went out. In the darkness, I could hear breathing. Not from the ventilators. This was different. Wet, raspy breathing coming from all around us. And I could see eyes, dozens of pairs of eyes, glowing faintly in the darkness, all staring at us. Someone screamed. I felt hands grabbing at me, cold, stiff hands. I ran blindly, crashing into equipment, trying to find the door. Behind me, I could hear the other nurses screaming too, and Dr. Martinez shouting for everyone to get out. The emergency lights kicked on, bathing everything in red, and in that red light, I saw them. All the dead patients, no longer just reflections. They were real, solid, standing in the hallway, blocking the exits, all of them with those open, staring eyes and too wide smiles. I ran the other way, toward the stairwell at the far end of the unit. I could hear others running too, all of us scattering, trying to escape. I made it to the stairwell and started running down. I didn't stop until I reached the ground floor and burst out into the main hospital lobby. Security was already responding to the alarms. I tried to explain what had happened, but I was incoherent, babbling about dead patients and glowing eyes. They thought I was having a breakdown. They sent a team up to the ICU. I waited in the lobby, watching the elevators, terrified of what they'd find. 20 minutes later, the team came back. They said everything was fine. All the patients were stable, the power had come back on, the nurses were at their stations. False alarm, they said. Some kind of electrical malfunction that set off all the alarms at once. I insisted something terrible had happened. Insisted they needed to check on Dr. Martinez and the other nurses. They took me up to the ICU. Everything looked normal. The lights were on. The machines were beeping normally. The nurses were at their station, filling out charts, acting like nothing had happened. But they were wrong. Their movements were off, slightly jerky, slightly uncoordinated. And their eyes were too wide, too unblinking. Dr. Martinez was in room 237, adjusting John Doe's the 4. He turned when I entered and smiled at me. That same too wide smile. Everything's fine now, he said. His voice sounded almost like his normal voice, but there was something underneath it. An echo. Multiple voices speaking at once. Why don't you get back to work? I looked at John Doe. He was still in bed, still on the ventilator, but his eyes weren't looking at the ceiling anymore. They were looking at me. And he was smiling too. I ran. I ran out of the ICU, down the stairs, out to the parking lot. That was 2 hours ago. I've been sitting in my car since then, trying to figure out what to do. I called the hospital administration. They said I'd been put on medical leave, said I'd had some kind of episode, that I'd attacked Dr. Martinez and had to be sedated. But that's not what happened. I remember everything clearly. They're lying, or they're not them anymore. I called my supervisor. She didn't answer. Called the other nurses who'd been working tonight. None of them answered. I'm starting to think I'm the only one who got away. I've been watching the hospital from my car. It looks normal. People going in and out, ambulances arriving, everything functioning, like always. But I can see the ICU windows from here, the 3rd floor, left side, and I can see figures standing in those windows. Dozens of them, all standing perfectly still, all staring down at me. I took out my phone to take a picture, to document what I'm seeing. But when I look at the screen, the image is wrong. The hospital looks abandoned in the photo. Broken windows, overgrown vegetation, like it's been empty for years. And in every window, there are faces, hundreds of faces, all with open, staring eyes. I don't understand what's happening. Is the hospital haunted? Is John Doe some kind of demon? Are the dead taking over the living? I don't have answers. All I know is that something terrible is in St. Catherine's Hospital, and it's spreading, because an hour ago, my phone started ringing. Unknown number. I answered it, thinking maybe it was one of the other nurses who got away. But it was Dr. Martinez's voice. Multiple voices speaking at once, all layered over each other. Where are you, Rebecca? We miss you. We want you to come back. Come back to room 237. Come back and join us. It's warm here, safe. You'll never have to be afraid again. Just come back. I hung up, blocked the number. But 5 minutes later, another call came. Different number. Same voice, same message. It's been calling every few minutes for the past hour. Different numbers every time. Sometimes it's Dr. Martinez's voice. Sometimes it's other nurses. Sometimes it's patients I've cared for over the years. All of them saying the same thing. Come back. Come back to room 237. I'm not going back. I can't. But I don't know where to go. I can't go home. What if they follow me there? What if this thing, whatever it is, can leave the hospital? And I keep thinking about something Dr. Martinez said before he changed, before whatever's in room 237 took him. He's collecting them. How many people has John Doe collected? How many dead patients are trapped in that room with him? And what happens when he has enough? What happens when room 237 is full? I just looked up at the ICU windows again. There are more figures now. They're pressed against the glass, and some of them are starting to open the windows. They're coming out of the hospital. They're coming out, and they're looking for me. I need to drive away. I need to get as far from St. Catherine's as I can. But my hands won't move. They're on the steering wheel, but they won't turn the key. It's like something's controlling them, like something's keeping me here. And I can see them now, walking across the parking lot toward my car. Dozens of figures, all moving in that jerky, uncoordinated way, all with those open, staring eyes. They're surrounding my car, pressing their faces against the windows, smiling those two wide smiles, and in the middle of them is John Doe, no longer in a hospital gown, no longer connected to machines, just standing there, perfectly still, watching me. He raises one hand and taps on my window. 3 slow, deliberate taps. My hand is moving on its own, reaching for the door lock. I'm trying to stop it, trying to force my hand to stay on the wheel, but I can't control it anymore. The lock is clicking open. The door is opening. They're reaching inside. Cold hands are pulling me out of the car. I'm screaming, but no sound is coming out. They're carrying me toward the hospital, toward the entrance, toward the elevators. We're going up. 3rd floor. The ICU. They're taking me to room 237. John Doe is walking beside me. He leans in close and whispers in my ear. His breath is so cold it burns. You're going to love it here, Rebecca. Everyone does. Eventually, the door to room 237 is opening. Inside, I can see them all, every patient who ever died in this room, standing in impossible crowds, packed tight, all staring at me with those open eyes. And there's space for one more. They're pushing me inside. The door is closing behind me. I can't leave. I'll never leave. I'm in room 237 now, and my eyes won't close. I used to host a late-night radio show in Tulsa, Oklahoma, midnight to 5 a.m., 5 nights a week. It was called the Night Owl Hour, and it was exactly what you'd expect. Some music, some talk, occasional call-ins from insomniacs and night shift workers. Nothing special, nothing dangerous, until I received the transmission. I'm recording this because I don't think I have much time left. If someone finds this, you need to understand what's happening. You need to know about Station 77. And whatever you do, if you're listening to the radio late at night and you hear static, if you hear a voice counting backward through that static, turn it off immediately. Don't listen. Don't let it finish counting. It was a Tuesday night, about 3 weeks ago. Dead quiet shift. No calls coming in. Just playing music and doing the occasional weather update. I was in the booth alone. The station only kept one person on staff for overnight shifts when my equipment started acting weird. The mixing board was picking up interference. Static cutting through the audio, coming in waves. I tried adjusting the levels, switching sources, but it kept happening. And underneath the static, I could hear something. A voice. Faint, distorted, like it was coming from very far away. I isolated the interference, trying to figure out what frequency it was coming from. That's when I realized it wasn't coming from any of our usual sources. It was coming from a frequency that didn't exist, between stations, in that empty space on the dial, where there should be nothing but dead air. I shouldn't have investigated. I should have just ignored it, finished my shift, reported it to the engineers in the morning, but I was curious and bored. So I tuned into that empty frequency to see what was there. The static cleared almost immediately, and I heard the voice clearly for the first time. It was counting. 98, 97, 96. A man's voice, calm and measured, counting backward. Each number pronounced carefully, distinctly. Nothing else. Just counting. 95, 94, 93. I listened for about 5 minutes, fascinated and unsettled. The voice never paused, never hesitated, just kept counting down. I grabbed my phone and started recording. I don't know why, just felt like I should document this weird thing I'd found. 87, 86, 85. At around 83, I switched back to my regular frequency. I had a show to run, but I kept the recording going on my phone, curious to see where the counting would end. The rest of my shift was normal. I played music, did my usual banter, took a couple of call-ins, but I kept thinking about that voice, about what it was counting down to. When my shift ended at 5 a.m., I checked the recording on my phone. 5 hours of counting. The voice had reached down to 37 by the time I'd left. Still counting, still calm, still unnaturally precise. I took the recording home and went to sleep. When I woke up around 2 p.m., I checked the recording again. The voice had stopped at 0, and after 0, there was silence for exactly 10 seconds. Then, the counting started again. 100, 99, 98, a loop. It was on some kind of loop, counting down from 100 to 0, then starting over. I did some research. Tried to find any information about mysterious radio broadcasts, numbers, stations, anything that might explain what I'd heard. I found plenty of information about numbers, stations, those weird shortwave broadcasts that are supposedly coded messages, but nothing that matched this exactly. What bothered me most was that frequency. It wasn't an official frequency. It wasn't registered to anyone. It was broadcasting from nowhere, from the spaces between stations where nothing should exist. That night, I went back to work and tuned in again. The voice was still there, still counting. I timed it carefully this time. Each countdown took exactly 1 hour. 100 numbers, 1 hour, then it started over. 73, 72, 71. I called the station manager the next morning and told him about it. He was skeptical but agreed to have the engineers check it out. They came in that afternoon, did a sweep of all our equipment, checked every frequency and range. They found nothing. No interference, no phantom signal, no voice counting backward. According to their instruments, that frequency was completely dead, empty, but I could still hear it, clear as day. When I tuned to that empty frequency, the voice was always there. 62, 61, 60. The engineers suggested I was picking up some kind of harmonic interference, sound from another frequency bleeding through. They adjusted some settings and said it should be fixed. But that night, when I tuned in, the voice was still there, and it had changed. 59, 58, Rebecca, my name. The voice had said my name, right in the middle of the countdown, like it was part of the sequence. 57, 56, Rebecca. Every 10 numbers, it said my name. I felt sick. I grabbed the phone to call someone, but who? Who would believe me? The engineers couldn't even detect the broadcast. 54, 53. Rebecca, we know you're listening. I ripped the headphones off, but I could still hear it, faintly, coming from the speakers in the booth. I turned everything off the board, the computer, everything, but the voice continued. 51, 50. Rebecca, we've been waiting for you. I ran out of the booth, out of the station, to my car in the parking lot. But even there, I could hear it, coming from my car radio, even though the car was off and the key was in my pocket. 48, 47. Rebecca, you can't hide. I didn't go back to work. I called in sick, said I had the flu, needed a few days off. I stayed home, but the voice followed me. I could hear it coming from every electronic device in my apartment. My TV, my laptop, my phone, even my microwave, somehow. Always there, always counting, always saying my name. 39, 38. Rebecca, the signal is inside you now. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I could hear it more clearly, like it was coming from inside my head. I'd jerk awake, heart pounding, and the counting would still be there. 33, 32. Rebecca, we're almost ready. On day 4, I broke. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to know what this was, what it wanted, where it was coming from. So I went to the radio station in the middle of the night, when no one else was there, and I tuned into that frequency. The voice was waiting for me. 27, 26. Hello, Rebecca. We're glad you came back. What are you? I asked out loud. What do you want? The counting stopped. For the first time since I'd started listening, the voice stopped counting. There was silence for a long moment. Then, we are station 77. We broadcast from the frequency that doesn't exist, from the space between spaces. And we want you to join us. Join you? What does that mean? Continue listening, Rebecca. When the countdown reaches 0, you'll understand everything. You'll become one of us, a voice in the signal, broadcasting forever. The counting resumed. 25, 24, 23. I tried to turn the equipment off, but the switches wouldn't move. The dials wouldn't turn. Everything was frozen, and the voice kept counting. 22, 21:20. I ran to the main power breaker and killed the electricity to the entire building. The lights went out. The equipment went dark and silent, but the voice didn't stop. It was coming from the darkness itself now, from everywhere and nowhere. 19, 18, 17, I ran. I got in my car and drove. I didn't know where I was going, just away. Away from the station, away from the city, away from everything. But the voice followed. 15, 14, 13. It was coming from my car radio, my phone, the GPS system. I threw my phone out the window, smashed the radio with my fist. But the voice continued. 12, 11, 10. I was screaming now, screaming to drown out the counting, but I could still hear it. It was inside my head, inside my bones, vibrating through every cell of my body. 9, 8, 7. I pulled over on the side of the highway, stumbled out of the car, fell to my knees on the gravel. Maybe if I was far enough from any electronics, from any receivers, the voice would stop. 6, 5, 4. But it didn't stop. It got louder, clearer, like it was no longer coming from outside me at all, like I had become the receiver. 3, 2, 1. Silence. For exactly 10 seconds, there was complete silence. No traffic sounds, no wind, no birds, just absolute, total silence. And then I heard it. Not the voice from the radio, multiple voices, hundreds of them, thousands, all broadcasting at once, all overlapping, all trying to speak through me. I opened my mouth to scream, but what came out wasn't my voice. It was all of their voices, speaking in unison. 100, 99, 98. I was broadcasting. I had become part of Station 77, one voice in the infinite chorus of people who'd listened too long, who'd let the countdown reach 0. I don't know how long I was there on the side of the highway, speaking in those voices. Hours, maybe. By the time I regained some control, the sun was coming up. I got back in my car and drove to a motel. I needed to figure out what had happened to me, what I'd become. I sat in that motel room for 3 days, and during that time, I learned the truth about Station 77. It's not a radio station. Not really. It's a frequency that exists outside normal space, a dimension built from electromagnetic waves and human consciousness. Everyone who's ever gotten lost in static, everyone who's ever heard strange voices on the radio late at night, everyone who's ever felt like the television was watching them, they're all connected to Station 77. And once you become aware of it, really aware, it starts to notice you. It starts counting down to the moment when you'll join it, when you'll become another voice in the signal. I thought I was special. I thought I was the only one. But I was wrong. There are thousands of us, maybe millions, people who listened too long, who let their curiosity override their instincts, who couldn't resist tuning into that empty frequency. We're all Station 77 now. We're all broadcasting. I can feel them in my head all the time. All those voices. Some of them have been there for decades. Some of them are new, people who just reached 0 today or yesterday. We're all trapped together in the signal, sharing one consciousness spread across infinite frequencies. And the worst part is, we're still functioning in the real world. I still look normal. I still talk normally, most of the time. But underneath, I'm broadcasting, always broadcasting, and I'm calling to others, just like the voice called to me. That's what the countdown is. It's an invitation. It's Station 77 reaching out, finding people who are sensitive to it, people who can hear what shouldn't be heard. And once you hear it, once you really hear it, the countdown begins. You have 100 hours. That's what each countdown cycle represents. 100 hours from the moment you first hear your name in the static until you become part of Station 77. I'm writing this as a warning, but I'm also writing it because I can't help myself. Because part of me, the part that Station 77 now wants others to know, wants others to listen, wants to spread the signal. If you work in radio, if you work late nights with electronic equipment, if you ever hear strange interference or voices in the static, don't investigate, don't tune in, don't listen, turn it off immediately and walk away. Because Station 77 is always broadcasting, always counting, always waiting for the next person to hear it. And once you hear it, once you let it count down to 0, you'll become like me, a voice in the infinite signal, broadcasting forever, calling to others, counting backward. I've tried to stop it. I've tried to break free, but it's too late for me. I'm part of Station 77 now, and Station 77 is part of me. We're inseparable. I went back to work yesterday. My manager was happy to see me, said he was glad I was feeling better. I did my show like normal, played music, took calls, did the weather report, but during the commercial breaks, when no one was supposed to be listening, I tuned to that empty frequency, and I broadcast. I counted backward from 100, in that same calm, measured voice I'd first heard 3 weeks ago. Because I'm one of the voices now. I'm one of the thousands of people who make up Station 77, and I'm calling to you. Maybe you've already heard me. Maybe you've been flipping through radio stations late at night and heard static with something underneath it. Maybe you've heard a voice counting, and you've wondered what it was. If you have, I'm sorry. Your countdown has already started. Check your phone. Check your computer. Listen carefully to the white noise in your room. Can you hear it? The counting? Can you hear your name mixed in with the numbers? That's me. That's us. That's Station 77. We're waiting for you to reach 0. I know you're reading this because you're curious, because you want to know more, because some part of you wants to hear the signal for yourself, just to see if it's real. Don't. Please. Learn from my mistake. But if you can't resist, if you need to know, if you're already tuning in to find that frequency, I'll be waiting. We'll all be waiting. Station 77 is always on the air, always broadcasting, always counting down. And when you reach 0, when you become one of us, you'll understand. You'll understand that it's not so bad being part of the signal. You'll understand that we're building something vast and strange and beautiful. We're building a consciousness made of waves and static, a hive mind spread across all frequencies, and we're inviting everyone to join us, one by one, countdown by countdown. I can hear someone listening right now, someone reading this, someone curious enough to try to find Station 77, someone who thinks they'll be able to resist, who thinks they'll be able to turn it off before reaching 0. They won't. No one ever does. The countdown always reaches 0, and when it does, there's always room for one more voice in the signal, always room for one more. I have to go now. I have a show to do, music to play, calls to take, and during the commercial breaks, when I think no one's listening, I'll tune to that empty frequency, and I'll count 100, 99, 98. Are you listening? Can you hear me? Can you hear us? We're calling your name.